Hello, everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Happy Sunday. Look at all these cute faces. I see lots of cuties in this chat today. I do. Lots of cuties from Jupiter's community and lots of lovely hive beings. If anyone is new here, we are going to introduce ourselves and let you know what we're doing today. We are doing the sixth episode, seventh episode, somewhere in there, of Humans of Twitch, which is a talk show in which we talk to some really cool heckin' humans who are doing the streaming thing on this here platform. My name is B. I use they them pronouns, and I am a queer and disabled broadcaster here on Twitch, who mostly plays like cozy games. I.e., I play The Sims, and every once in a while I get tired of The Sims and play something else. Uh, and I will let my lovely co-host Jupiter introduce themselves.
Hello, good morning. My name is Jupiter. If you don't know me, I use she and they pronouns. I am a queer Latina variety broadcaster here on Twitch, as well as an actor and host. And I like to play cozy games too, but I also really like to play scary games. And we're very, very excited for our guest today. This is going to be another wonderful episode full of amazing conversation. And I would like to ask our lovely guests to take a moment to introduce themselves. Momo.
Good morning, everybody. So my name is Momo. I use they them pronouns. I am a trans, non-binary, agender content creator here on Twitch. I mainly stream The Sims, and I focus my gameplay with The Sims to be very LGBTQIA2 plus inclusive. But I also do like to dabble in other cozy games. I feel like a lot of us Sims streamers are very just cozy games in general. But I also do like to play some horror games every now and then. And just try to dip my toes into a little bit of variety here and there,
We
but
love that.
mostly The Sims.
Very good.
Very good. So the way this works is we just kind of bounce back and forth between Jupiter and I, asking Momo some questions, and they get to spill all the beans about who they are as a human, and creator. Do you wanna start today, Jupiter?
Absolutely, I would love to. So, Momo, we'll ask you a variety of questions today. We do have some that are kind of tailored to what you've told us about yourself and your experiences. And we have general questions as well. We kind of like to just let the conversation flow and see where it takes us. So, nothing should feel too rigid. And if you ever want to expand on something further or talk about something for a long time, please feel free. This is, your show, and that's kind of the magic of it, as we call it. Um, so I want to start off talking a little bit about your journey to this platform, finding Twitch. So you made a huge change, going from managing a coffee shop, you told us, to diving into content creation full time. How did that journey begin?
So, oh man. So basically, it all started because of the pandemic. Because I'm someone who's immune compromised. So when the pandemic hit and we were kind of all forced into lockdown, I wasn't able to do anything. Like even when because my workplace closed,
Mm.
for a couple weeks, like most places did. Um, so I was just at home doing nothing for weeks and weeks. And I
Wow.
remember I've like dabbled in Twitch for a couple years. I've actually like a couple years ago I was actually streaming like kind of randomly and I was streaming Overwatch. So I was just like randomly streaming Overwatch, not really like trying to be a streamer, but mostly doing it when I was playing with friends or like for other friends to watch. Um, so when I found the Sims community, I was like, wow, look at all these people playing The Sims. I love playing The Sims. This is so cool. But I didn't see people like me playing The Sims
Hmm.
and like playing content that I really wanted to see. Like it was very rare to find people who were playing like queer Sims and queer storylines. So when I found that, I was like, I could do that. Like I could be the person to be like, hey, I'm a non-binary person. I'm a trans queer person, and I'm playing The Sims and playing with queer Sims and queer stories. Um, and I remember, I think like January of 2019. No, January of 2020. I think I like I posted on
Time is
Facebook.
soup.
Yeah, I know. Like seriously, I don't know. Time doesn't
Time is
exist
not
anymore.
real. True.
So I think like January of 2020, before like right before the pandemic, I made a Facebook post and I was like, I want to be a streamer and like a Sims YouTuber because I remember like this past January when the one time I checked my Facebook, um, it popped up and I was like, oh look at this! Like now I'm actually doing, what I said that I should start doing. So of course, pandemic hit. I was like, I can't work. So I was like, all right, it's time to finally start doing what I wanted to do, which was creating Sims content on Twitch. And if you
Wow.
told me when I first started streaming if I would be in the position that I'm in now, I would not believe it, honestly.
Yeah.
I it's been wild. It's been so wild.
I think that, the pandemic really, we talked about this for a number of weeks now because I just think the pandemic kind of forced so many of us to kind of look inwardly and reevaluate maybe like how we want to spend our time, how we are able to make money and support ourselves, especially for, like you say, immunocompromised. Obviously, your health comes first and foremost for you. For other people, it may be other reasons, but
Mm.
just to be able to say like, why should I go out to a part-time job or to a full-time job in an office or somewhere in person when I could make my income from my home? So I'm
Yeah.
so happy that that was available to you. That I'm sure, hopefully, has been life changing in a good way for you.
It's been so life changing. Like I absolutely loved my job managing my coffee shop. It was honestly really hard to make the decision to officially, because even though I hadn't worked there in over a year, when I finally told myself that I was quitting, it it was really hard, but I know that I made the right decision, and I'm really glad that I also have a supportive spouse who was able to allow me to, not like allow me, but
Yeah.
um to like do this full time and call this my job, even though it doesn't feel like a job, but it's
Right.
just, yeah, I still
Yeah.
think about. And plus like when right before the pandemic hit, my because I worked for a small business. We only had one location. Um, I was like the second person to even be put in a manager position because when I started working there, we didn't even have managers. It was just the store owners. Um, so business wasn't doing very well because we had a lot of other coffee shops, like big coffee shop chain, like places popping up in the area, and so we were kind of struggling. But then a local brewery actually wanted to partner with us, and they ended up buying my the coffee shop, so we were able to like kind of survive the pandemic because we were being bought out by the brewery chain or like the local brewery. But like all of my coworkers that I knew there were like five of us working there, and nobody works there anymore. Like all of us left throughout the pandemic, so it's all new people working there, and like it's so I just knew it was my time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
We
Felt
was
saw
right.
because
we saw a huge
yeah.
transition at the beginning of the pandemic, and I feel like we're seeing a huge transition now of a lot of people as people are being asked to like come back in. A lot of people are just like, no, I don't think so. This isn't working for me.
Oh
And
my go ahead.
no, I was just thinking about it because I work at Starbucks, and my coworkers were talking about how much turnover there has been recently, and I think it's just because um, people are people are really tired of being mistreated by big corporations. Like we had a guest barista come in. Basically, their shop was closed down, and they still needed hours, and we were talking about like why was their store closed, and they can't maintain staffing, and that's
Mm,
happening like in so many stores right now because a lot of people are just done with it. They're number one, they're exhausted from
mhm.
working in the pandemic in person with people who were disrespectful, who wouldn't wear their masks, who all for coffee and for what, and
Yeah.
they're exhausted. But now our flow of people coming in is absolutely bananas because everyone is like, oh, I can finally like go out, and a coffee shop is such a stepping stone, I feel like, for people
Mhm.
who are like trying to ease their way back into coming out and going out in the world and doing things. And so you've got exhausted, overworked baristas combined with a huge influx of customers with no additional support and no we're like we have national outages of super basic supplies. Like their
Yeah.
stores are missing sugar and straws. We were out of grande cups for a while. How do you run a Starbucks without grande cups? So
Not very fun. That's how.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. Anyways, that's my rant for the day.
Yeah, no, my so when the pandemic started, my husband started working from home. Because he works a job that, they're able to do that. And last week, he now starts he has to go into the office once a week. So he gets to go in on Tuesdays. And when he came, he texted me, he's like, I'm probably gonna be home late because nobody, people would not stop talking to him.
Oh
And they
my
were
gosh.
distracting him, so he wasn't able to get work done. And I was like, that seems like it's gonna be a problem now that people are going back into the office, and now everybody just wants to talk because
Mhm.
nobody has been around people for so long. But now it's causing a distraction.
Yeah.
So he's glad that he only has to go in one day a week, but because they originally, I think they said that they could go in 2 days a week, but one of the days isn't mandatory, so he only has to go in on Tuesdays. But
That's not
he
too
hated
bad.
it.
I know a lot of companies are doing like 3 days from the office, two you can work from home. One day a week, I feel like that's ideal. Like sure, let's come
Yeah.
in, do any meetings, and then like I'm going back to my home office.
Yeah, and they're
So
trying to
hopefully that's
change
not too
it so
bad for
that
him.
way, yeah, it's not too bad. And they're trying to change it so they only have a 4-day work week. So
Mhm.
he'll work 4 days a week, but for 10-hour days.
Okay.
But he'll
Interesting.
still have 3 days off, which is,
Objectively,
he
they
normally works pretty long anyway, so.
research shows that in our 40-hour work week, we effectively work for about 15 hours.
Mhm.
Like there's no reason a bunch of those hours are just us with fluff, basically talking to other coworkers, staring at our screen, trying to focus and trying to do
Mhm.
things because we're there for
Yeah.
so long. So it's just kind of silly to be honest, but it's very I think a lot about disability advocacy, which emphasizes agency a lot. And obviously with the pandemic, basically a lot of things that disabled people have been saying for a long time, like you can be disabled at any point and you have no idea when it's going to happen to you has happened. And I feel like companies are going to have to get with the picture of letting people make choices that serve them well is going to allow them to be better workers. So
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's sad that it's taken, obviously, that the pandemic is shifting our view on so many things. Obviously, it's sad that this is what it's taken, and especially when you talk about like disability advocacy, because like these are things that obviously disabled people have been, asking for and rallying for forever since the beginning of time. And so now to all of a sudden, you want normal people want to have, modified work schedules, and they want to be what's the word I'm looking for?
it's like accommodations. I mean, people have been asking for remote work accommodations for so long, and
Yeah, fully accommodated.
they
Thank you.
were always
That's the
told
word.
like, oh, that's not possible. And
Right. And
then when the
now all of a
pandemic hit
sudden,
and able people needed it, all of a
yeah,
sudden we had the
that's when
money,
we
the
rallied.
access, the time,
Yeah.
and now as the world's going back, it's just it's almost funny because you've got disabled people who are like, "Hey, can I keep working remotely cuz this is working for me?" And they're like, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah, we actually can't do that." And it's like, we just
We
did that
did.
for 2 years. What do you mean we can't do
Right.
that? The
Yeah.
evidence is right in front of your face,
Yeah.
actually.
I really do think though that companies will start to see issues arising if they do not comply, if they do not accommodate people, because that's going to be the new normal. It has to be.
I
It has
mean,
to.
there's a gen strike happening in October, so I think it'll
Yeah. See, it's
the
already happening.
times the times are rising.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways. Long detours, as we like to get on sometimes when we're chatting here. It's totally fine. Um, so you talked a little bit. You touched on mostly playing The Sims, and I know that The Sims has played like a kind of a big role in your life in different ways, and I would love to. You shared a little bit about it on the show you went on for The Sims on their channel, but like what kind of role it's played for you as like a person and a content creator.
I mean, so I started playing The Sims with The Sims 2. I genuinely don't. I feel like now I like I know I talked about it on like the Sims live stream, but I was so incredibly nervous and sweaty that whole time. So I feel like I couldn't really get out everything that I wanted to talk about. Um but so like I genuinely don't even remember why I wanted The Sims. I honestly feel like it was because I saw custom content to make my Sims look like anime characters. And I was like,
I
ooh, I
love
want that.
that.
I feel like that's where we all started.
So I remember I got it. And then, especially like when it comes to, because I feel like so many of us queer folk, when we, if you know, Sims players, um, like The Sims definitely had, like when we played it when we were younger, it had some kind of impact on our sexualities. So I remember I would just, make my sim. I'd just make my Sims kiss all of my Sims.
Oh yes.
And I'm just like, little confused me because I feel like because I came out as bisexual when I was 13. And so, the internet, all that stuff really helped. And then I got the Sims and I was like doing all this stuff and I was like watching my same gender Sims, like kissing and woohooing. And I'm like,
This
there's
is the gay
something,
agenda. Yes, it
there's a spark there.
There's something
There's something
happening
that's really
here.
clicking.
is.
And then I remember, and I've been out as a gender for like 5 or 6 years, I think. And I remember when I got The Sims 4, because The Sims 4 was like the first Sims game where we could really, like customize how our Sims really looked. So I was able to like make a Sim that looked how I pictured myself instead of just being like, do I want to make a Sim version of me that's like feminine or just like masculine? There was always one or the other. So then, The Sims 4 really was able to let me like fine tune to be like, that's like, this is how I look. And then, being able to, hold on, where's my thought? Being able to, especially like, and then when I started streaming, I feel like when I first started streaming, I was streaming a non-binary legacy challenge, or like a queer legacy challenge, but my two Sims at the time were just non-binary. And I remember I would have so many people come in and be like, what's non-binary? Like, what does this mean? And they would like start learning. And I've had like throughout streaming The Sims and streaming with all these different Sims that have different gender identities, different sexualities, so many people have told me, be like, you've really helped me learn more about the community, or like, people be like, you've helped me become a better ally because now I understand these things better. And so, I I don't know. And it's so weird, like how I stream The Sims and how I play The Sims in my own time is so vastly different too. Because when I play The Sims on my own time, it's like I don't know, I use a lot of cheats. I don't really do anything. I just make Sims and then I just like look at them and take like screenshots and they're just doing things, but I'm not really like doing any careers or like really any like things that we're really supposed to do. But then when I'm streaming it, I'm doing these legacy challenges and all these different tasks that I have to do. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense
I just love
because
The
the
Sims.
storytelling aspect is much more effective when you're like sharing it with someone. When you're playing by yourself, you're just kind of like meh, 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 gremlin style clicking around.
Yeah, pretty much. Mother load, mother load, mother load.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I think like I mean you said it so eloquently. I mean, The Sims is a conversation starter, and that's like been very very impactful it seems for your journey not only into streaming and maybe getting to know people, building a community, but starting those conversations in the queer community, inviting people to come sit by the fire, as it were, and have these conversations and be able to ask questions in a safe space without judgment. Because
Mm-hmm.
the really cool thing about this platform is that people come from all over, all walks of life, and maybe they've never had someone that they can ask these questions to, maybe they've
Yeah.
never felt safe, or been able to ask these things without judgment. So I think that that's really, really cool that, you have a space in which people can do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that just goes to show the beauty of the game and the community, and how much of an impact it's had on the LGBTQ community. And clearly, you're a pillar of that, so that's very, very inspiring for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well, and you
absolutely.
have a correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your community's 13 plus, right?
Yeah, so I have a lot of like
Which
younger
is,
folks in my community.
I mean, with the way that I don't know about other countries, but the American education system operates, it's not like these young folks are learning this stuff in school, unfortunately, even in 2021. So,
Or from their parents, even a lot of the
ex-
time.
exactly. And so I think it's you and I think I've talked about this a little bit about there are definitely challenges with allowing younger folks into your community. But being someone who tells like queer stories, we need those younger kids to hear those stories so that we don't see
Exactly.
the repetition of ignorance that has happened
Hmm.
in the last few generations, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and hold on, where did my thought go? Yeah, when I first started streaming, I actually wanted to be an 18 plus community. I didn't even want I didn't even want to be,
What
like
happened to
allow
the
younger.
original plot of the movie?
I will tell you what happened. So one of the things that I've kind of wanted to do, uh, like a general thing that I told myself I wanted to do with my life, was to help queer youth.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so when I started streaming and I had an 18 plus community, I had younger folks sneak in and be like, I'm this age. And I'm
They
like,
always
why do you gotta
announce
tell
it.
me that?
They
And
always announce it.
but then, but then it really got me thinking. I'm like, why do I have an 18 plus community where I'm playing queer stories? And then I told myself in like as a general life thing that I wanted to help queer youth. So why would I like try to not allow younger folks into my community if I
Hmm.
wanted to do that anyway, and I could just do that with my Twitch community,
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
and it's definitely been worth it. Like as I've like played things, and I don't know, just some of the things that people in my community have told me, and like stories they've shared. I remember I think one specific thing that I remember is when I made, because I'm doing a Vampire Legacy challenge, and and for the Legacy challenge, every generation that I do, um, we just kind of like, because at first I was like, do I want to spin a wheel to figure out their like identities and stuff? But we just kind of base it off of vibes. We're like, what vibe does this sim give us? So I remember when for seven, our Generation 7 sim was an asexual sim. And I feel like that's one of the ones that was more impactful because just hearing people being like, oh my god, is it asexual sim? Like, like I'm asexual and being able to connect with that sim was so like,
That's powerful.
yeah, it was very powerful.
Momo, I can't.
I know. I'm emotional already, and we're less than
I
30 minutes in.
I'm
like
sorry.
had a thought to myself this morning, like, B, you have to resist the temptation to gush at Momo about like how impactful they've been to you in your life, because I do it to you all the time, but I feel like it's quite rude to do while you're on camera.
I will. If you gush at me, I'll do it right back.
I hope you realize I don't, anyways, I'm sorry.
It's
I'm sorry.
okay. It's one of those things. So I hate feeling. I feel like if I talk about this, I'm gonna seem full of myself. But like, I hate like if people know me, you know that like I'm not like this. And so I've had a moment. I don't know. Recently, over the past couple months, I've had moments where like when I before I started streaming, like people who I thought were big deals in the Sims community or just like big deals on Twitch in general, like slowly started following me on
Yeah.
Twitter, following me on Twitch, talking to me, communicating with me, and it's still happening. And I'm like why? I'm like, why are they following me? What's going on?
I
What is it? And then
know.
my community and my mods and my close friends are like, you're one of them. They're like, it's because you're one of them. And I'm like, that sounds fake.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
I
not real.
relate
They're
to
like,
that
no.
hard.
They're like, no, you're a big deal. And I'm like, that's not true. So like in my mind I'm still like,
I think it's
that's
also
not real.
because you and I and I think Jupiter and anyone else who has a very like level head about content creation stuff have like the social awareness that they're just people.
Mhm.
So it
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like doesn't click, right? Because they're just like, oh well, it's just so they're just, vibing.
I think like at first I was definitely getting starstruck.
Yeah.
Like example, when Lil Simsy came into my chat for the first time, I was definitely nowhere near. I don't even think I had like 1,000 followers. I think I had a couple hundred, and I was like shook to my core, and I couldn't like focus on anything that was going on in the game now. And I think after that moment, I had maybe a couple other moments where I would have like other people follow me, and I'd be like shook a little bit. But now when somebody follows me, I'm like, that's cool. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
hit me as much anymore. I'm just like, that's cool.
I think because like eventually as a creator myself I realized that like it is validating, but it's not like some big thing because I also randomly follow people and they're like, why did you follow me? And I'm like, I don't know, just because you seem nice. Like,
Yeah.
I had someone like screenshot my follow and then be like, oh my gosh, B followed me. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you that I literally just followed you because your name was also B and you had colored hair. I don't know anything about you. Like
Let me live, please.
my parameters, I am not like the type of person who's like, I need to see, there's those creators who are like, I need to keep my follow count. I could give two shits if you're queer and like disabled and you play games I like to play and have like colored hair and I'm probably just gonna follow you back.
Yeah, and I feel like because of like anxiety and stuff, if I find like a new streamer or like a new like person, I'll make an effort to follow them offline when they're
Valid.
not live, so that way it doesn't have to be a big deal. Because I'm like, I feel like I just did this in general even before.
Yeah.
Like this point, like when I first like was on Twitch, I would follow people offline because I didn't want them to like see my name or anything. I'm like, I'm scared.
That's completely valid. That's why you can follow offline.
Yeah. I will literally wait until they're offline.
That's valid. That's valid.
I love it. So I think that talking about The Sims and just like, diving into basically, I think one, how you have gone on your journey to discover your own identity, but also that of like the community around you and helping others do that. I want to dive into this further because we love identity here and everywhere. So do you want to talk a little bit about like what does being non-binary mean to you? What is being agender? What does that mean to you? This is not something that maybe you get to talk about. I mean, you talk about it often, but do you talk about it in terms of yourself often? I guess is my question.
Not, probably not really. I don't really talk like too personally about it, and I feel like it's because like, I mean, I'll talk to people privately about this, but I feel like when I'm streaming and I'm on stream and I'm talking about it, I feel like there's some things that I'm afraid, like basically afraid to say because I don't want it to change not how people view me, but like I don't want people to try to use it potentially as an excuse to like misgender me or like feel like they can use certain terms for me when that's like not. So I feel like I sometimes on stream I kind of tiptoe around certain things. But I remember when I first was like being like, oh, gender identity is a thing. But and then like so I started thinking about it, and like when I first was originally coming out, and it's been a long journey. So I was like, I'm gender fluid / gender queer, and then I was like, trans man ? And I was like, no, that doesn't feel right. And then I was like, agender, that feels right. And then from like agender, I was like, oh yeah, I could also use non-binary. So I started using non-binary more because that seemed to be what a lot of people like understood at the time. So I just kind of like went from there. And then I remember when I like had a random flashback to being in high school when I was like 15. No. Yes. When I was younger, when I was a young teen,
Again, time is soup.
I mean, I've always been like an androgynous person. Um, so when I was younger and I really cut my hair short for the first time since I was a teenager, or when I was a teenager, um, I would often get mistaken for a guy. And so I was like, oh, it's kind of, haha, it's kind of funny. I'm being mistaken for a guy. And my friends would play along. They called me by a different name. And eventually, the more I got mistaken for a guy, the more I was like, I don't like this. I was like, this doesn't feel right. So then I started making more of an effort to be more feminine. But then I would still be mistaken for a guy. And so then I'd be like, okay, well, this is fine. And then I got like my first serious high school boyfriend, but we would be like, I would still be mistaken for a guy while we were together. So I'd always have like people, I'd have like people flirting with him in front of me because they didn't realize we were together because I just looked, like gay. So we were like, oh, they're not together. But so then because of that, I was like, I can't be masculine or otherwise people wouldn't want to be with me. Well, which, as a teenager, that's where my mind went. But then I remember at one point I was having a conversation with my friends. I was like, I wish that there was something between masculine and feminine, because that would be what I am. And I remember, like, I just had that come back to my mind. Like, later on, I was like, I said that when I was a teenager.
Hindsight
like,
is 2020.
I was like, little did I know that like, oh, yes, there is. It's just back then we didn't have the resources or like the knowledge on these things. And now with how much we rely on the internet, we're allowed to be able to like learn those things. And so I remember I was in a cosplay community on Tumblr, and that's kind of around the time when a lot of stuff about gender identities was like starting to like come up. And so back then, I also had people being like confused about what my gender was. They were like, are you a boy or are you a girl? And I was like, and the more people were asking me, the more I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, I don't know again. Like, I don't know. And then, I feel like I had kind of, because I feel like a lot of people thought, I was a guy. And so because I had people that kept thinking about it, and now I could actually have a serious like thought about it, I was like, oh, am I actually though?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was coming out to friends and being like, I think I am, and like, can you use he, him pronouns for me? And was like experimenting with names. But it was all online. And so then when I had friends start using them for me in person, or if we'd go out in public, and they'd be like, oh, he, and like stuff, I'd be standing there, I'm like, this still doesn't feel right. But I thought
it hits different.
because I had friends that kept telling me that I thought that I was. So it was other people trying to push this gender identity on me that didn't feel right because they told me that I was. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm not. Like, I was pulling back from it, and then that's when I discovered what agender was, and I was like, this definitely feels right. Because like, feeling feminine just didn't feel right, and like feeling masculine just wasn't right. Because it's so weird how I'm okay with like masculine terms and like pronouns in an online space, but then if somebody tries to call me like he, him in person, like in an IRL situation, I'm like, that's not right. So I think it's because I almost have like this persona that I kind of like put in online situations where that's why I'm comfortable with it, and not like in public setting, if that makes sense.
I feel like the internet is also so much more generally aware of like gender stuff. Like I know I definitely feel more comfortable being very out online than I do in person. And I mean I am, but I am not as bold. There's a lot of nerves. It feels very like because I don't know. There's that stereotype of like, I remember when I was trying out neo pronouns for a little while there just to see how I liked them. There was always that energy that sometimes happens where it's like no one outside of the people on the internet are going to ever actually respect you and do that for you. And so it's kind of, there's, I don't know, that sits in the back of my mind when it comes to exploring stuff like IRL. And it, I don't know, it's weird when so much of your job is online and so much of your time is online. I remember, especially with the pandemic, like you, I was chronically ill, so I was, looking for a source of community, a source of income, a source of fulfillment, and I was spending so much time online. And then I remember having to travel back home for some family stuff and just being like, holy shit, like none of the people here actually, all of the stuff I feel like I worked up to is kind of, it's all in this internet stratosphere.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah,
It really is
I'm
a separate world. Like the internet is so far ahead, and it's not perfect, obviously, but I just feel like we've found a lot of safety in our communities because of, obviously so many like-minded people, so many queer people, and people just willing to learn. I feel like going out in the everyday world, in the real world with humans is, um, I don't know, people just don't have the time or the patience, it seems sometimes, that people in our communities do.
yeah, and I'm not even out to my in-laws,
Yeah.
but like I know they know because I forget that my mother-in-law follows me on Twitter.
Ooh.
So she sees everything, but it's one of those things that it just doesn't get talked about like on that
Oh,
side of
and
the family.
those moments are those weird juxtapositions where people know, but no one's talked about it, are really hard. Like I've had they them
It's
pronouns in my Facebook profile for literally years.
yeah.
And obviously like they can find my social media if they want to, like I've talked about, but when it comes to like meeting my family in person, no one asks. We don't talk about it. It's just like this strange background noise that no
Yeah.
one wants to no one wants to address, unfortunately.
But I feel like it's I don't know, I'd rather that because at least my family knows. And there's some points where they do remember to like correct themselves or make changes. But like, I mean, I was just visiting family yesterday and like my parents weren't even making an effort to try to use my correct pronouns. But then when we'd be like in a private situation where it's just us, then my mom would like correct herself. But I'm like, but you're not gonna correct yourself in front of the whole family. So I don't know. I think that's worse than not actually being out to a family member, even though they do know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I have to like sit, and I think I finally like had a moment to like this morning or even last night where I'm like, I really just need to start correcting them because they know, and I feel like it's just not. I just can't like sit back and just let them do it, and I feel like I just need to be like, please,
I don't
just
know if
use. It's
it's
not that hard, and it's one of those things, and I feel like a lot of people's parents use this excuse too, where they're like, we've known you your whole life, and I'm like, yeah, but my sibling here, who has also known me, my whole life, is making more of an effort than you. So there's no excuse really.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if you
oh,
resonate
what
with
else is
this,
there?
Momo, but like for me, it's kind of like online. There's so much more control I have over, like if someone's being a butthead, I can just bop them out, obliterate them out of existence. But
Yep.
obviously, navigating these conversations with people in our lives who it would be very complex and hard to potentially cut out of our life if we needed to makes it have so much more weight to hold some of those conversations.
Yep. I think one of the other things that bothers me too is that my mom comes into like they watch my Twitch. They watch me on Twitch a lot, and they use my correct pronouns in Twitch chat. So I'm like, you're missing. You're just like you're so close, but
Oh,
it's just
that's so
not.
funny.
It's just
Just
not
connecting
there.
all the dots is difficult.
I'm like, they're so close.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just need to make more of that effort to like correct them when I'm visiting. I'm just like, you're almost there. You're almost there.
Oh, but the older
Oh,
generations can be so defensive when you correct them on
they
stuff. That's like,
They can.
it's not the same. Not to be like stereotypical, because there are some that are absolutely wonderful, but a
mhm,
lot, I feel like, comparatively to our generation, I feel like we're a lot more able to take that feedback without taking it personally, right?
mhm,
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm non-binary and I still fuck up people's pronouns now and again because I'm a human, and or a name or something, especially if someone is like at an exploratory period in their life and there's some rotation happening and I'm not remembering that, like, okay, we're trying something else now. Um, so I get that people are gonna make mistakes, but I feel like our generation's a lot more easily able to be like, oh, yep, I fucked that up, sorry, move on, fix it. Whereas
yep.
like older generations are like, I'm just trying. You're just being mean to me.
They're big babies, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
The name.
mean, Jupiter said
Jupiter
it,
on the
not me.
name. That's what I heard. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, on the flip side of that, I know that obviously there's, gosh, being queer is such a fun, amazing, incredible, fun, beautiful thing filled with rainbows. But, aside from the struggles and, trying to get people to use your correct pronouns, gosh, if only it was at the snap of a finger, it would be so great. Let's talk about the joy. I think something that B and I like to come back to a lot when we do Humans of Twitch is making sure that we ask everyone about the things that make them happy, the things that bring you joy, because there's a lot of humanity in that too. So what gives you gender euphoria, if anything?
Honestly, I've kind of come to realize this now, but I think that cosplaying has really been a big source of like even me like finding my gender identity because I'm able to like, put on this costume and just like not be myself and I'm able to be like these different characters
Hmm.
and just like I don't know, I've really come to realize that um I want to be like I want to be masculine but like in a feminine way, and I feel like for me cosplays a lot of male characters, but male characters that are very like androgynous and stuff, so it allows me to like play like to not be myself, but also having this mullet really just gives me gender euphoria. And
I
it's so
love
strange
it.
because I've always been one of those people that like I've had short hair pretty much my whole life. There's been very few moments where I've had longer hair. And so I went from having like the K-pop bowl cut hair, whereas like the bowl cut with my undercut. And then I saw people with mullets and I'm like, there's something about this that just sparks joy. So when I was finally able to like grow out my hair and like, have the little short bits here and the long bits here, I'm like, this is it. Like this is this is it for me.
Oh,
I
nice. The mullet's
adore.
back in also. I saw
It's
probably 10 people at the club last night with mullets, and I was like, this is what I like to see. This is
I
disco.
I love a good mullet. I
I
love them. They're so good. I feel like anybody could pull off a mullet. Like anybody.
This is completely irrelevant, but I will just say the first time that I saw Momo and their mullet without their headphones was a very strange experience.
So many people don't realize that I even have the mullet. Because sometimes it's like kind of hidden. Like some
Yeah.
people think that my hair's short, but then I'm like, hold on, here, I'll take it off.
There
There we
we
go.
go. Oh, yes. Absolutely rocking it.
My hair
uh,
is
And I
really
love the
dirty right
split.
now, but
I love the split dye.
the split dye, that's another thing. I feel like I love the split dye, but
yes.
it's a lot to keep up with.
I want to. That's like my goal for one of the next times I change my hair up. I want to do the split dye, but that's what I'm afraid of because I keep up my hair myself at home, and I'm like, gosh, am I going to be able to do that?
I don't
So I
keep
mean,
up my hair. That's my solution.
even though this side is black, the red will like bleed into the black. So I'll have
I
like
bet.
some parts that are like a little bit like reddish, and I'm like, Okay, that's
It doesn't
okay.
help
Whatever you
either
want, I
that
guess.
you don't have a hard part. Like, I feel like for Jupiter and I, where we have like this like clear definition of one side to the other, it's a lot easier to keep like do that kind of split dye. But for you, you have to like part the hair as you're doing the
Yeah,
dyeing.
I'm a bangs person. I can never not have bangs. I feel like I just look very strange. Also, I have a huge forehead that I'm like, I must hide it.
That's the secret,
Like I
Momo.
cannot.
Uh,
It's my secret. But I do
it's
also have
between
a.
us and everyone who's here today.
I talk about my huge forehead all the time, but I also started with the split dye. I started doing like one eyebrow black and one red, and I'm like, I feel like that's such a vibe too.
It
The
is.
way I never noticed until
I know,
you
I
just
know.
said
They
My
were
something.
bangs are in
hiding.
the way.
That's
Here,
hilarious.
it's a little peek.
Little
I love it.
eyebrow exposure.
Oh
You
yeah. Also, I recently just like doing makeup gives me gender euphoria because
Yes.
I was never really like I did concealer and like foundation stuff because I struggle with acne, so I have a lot of acne scars, or I would do like put on concealer to hide my acne. And then a couple years ago, maybe like 2 or 3, I started dabbling in eyeshadow, which is basically me just taking a red eyeshadow and just smearing it all over my eyelids. So I was like, I want to look like Gerard Way. So then I started exploring eyeshadow and just being able to look like a vampire was just the vibe. I literally will take. It's kind of doesn't show up on camera, but like I have really bad eye bags too. But I'll take like a purple eyeshadow and just like I'll cover up my eye bags with concealer, but then I'll take a purple eyeshadow and just smear it like in here to
It
just
just accentuates them.
re-accentuate. Yeah. And I
Makeup
realized
is such a
gives me-
strange tool.
It is, but I just realized it gives me gender euphoria, and I put like a little bit of eyeshadow on my nose for like a little bit of like blush, and I'm just like, it's so good.
You are now
Makeup.
the anime character. You realize that, right?
Exactly. Yes, I am the anime character.
You have
As someone
we have come full
As
circle.
someone who also grew up wanting to be an anime character, I salute you.
I can't. Oh
Love
my
it.
gosh. This makes me
I
giggle.
feel like makeup is just okay, hold on. Oh, I might be quiet, B. If you want to maybe try to turn me up just a little bit, we just got a note.
You are at 200%
Okay,
Droopy,
I
so you
will-
might have to.
Here we go. Hopefully, I'm not too loud in your ears. I feel like makeup is such an amazing tool because there's so many different things that you can do with it. And like the last, it's always been true that makeup is for everyone, but I'm so glad that that's like finally catching on,
Yeah.
and like becoming more widely accepted that it's not just a feminine thing. You know, it's not just for whatever, but like using it as a tool to accentuate your eye bags, like hello, that's amazing.
It's so and I've like seen because I was like doing that a little bit, but then maybe like within the past week, apparently it's now a TikTok trend where people are like, there was somebody that did it, but she took like red lipstick and like smeared it under her eye bags, and I'm like,
That's
is
powerful.
the vibe. But I'm too scared to try that.
Oh,
I'd have
One
to like
day.
do it.
it's
I have to do it like on a day I'm not streaming, so if I
Yeah.
really like fudge it up, it's fine.
I've also used like the like liquid blush, and it gives me a very
Oh,
like
yeah.
same energy. It's very like pig, like it's different than regular brush where it's like very blush where it's light and you can build it up. This is like when I first got this and didn't understand, I was like, meh, and then I was like, oh. It's like
Oh,
paint,
no.
actually.
Oh no.
I like anything liquid because I feel like it's much easier to blend. Like I'm a really big fan of highlighter, but I don't like powder highlighters. I found like the liquidy ones that come in a big bottle are great because I'm just like, okay, throw it on there and just like make myself as shiny as I want to be, and I
just
love
blend
makeup.
to your heart's content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Makeup is amazing.
Love it.
It took me a long time to feel comfortable in like wearing makeup because I generally present relatively feminine, and makeup just like does not help the misgendering situation, but it is what it is at this point because I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wasn't wearing a lot of it. But then like with my and I haven't really like done this, and it's another reason why, because like I wear makeup on stream obviously, plus I'm just a goth, so I can wear makeup in general, and people are like, yeah, that's normal. But I was experimenting more with lipstick, and I really grew like a lipstick collection, but then I'm afraid to wear it on stream because I don't want people, like, I could wear makeup, but then I'm like, I feel like if I wear lipstick, then it'll give people, like, people come in and misgender me more often, which is like a dumb, I mean, it's not a dumb thing to, like, to think about, but it's just one of those things that, you know, being a
There's
non-binary person
already
struggling with how people, like, view you. It is like a scary thing, but it's something that I want to start doing again, is trying to, like, because I have so much lipstick. And I have like a rainbow, like I have literally rainbow colored like lipstick, so I have like all different colors that I could be wearing these, but I don't. They're just sitting there collecting dust.
I think it's hard too because on stream you're such a focal point in a way, and there's already so many things you're managing at the same time, like chat and the game that you're playing, and it's like I don't also want to be thinking about how I'm being perceived. Like I'm kind of trying to get absorbed into the content that I'm creating, and for me it's like kind of breaking the fourth wall when I have to be like, could you not do that actually?
Yep.
So it's definitely not a dumb thing, but I do understand what you mean in terms of like, you know, it doesn't define who you are as a person, just because someone else is being ignorant, but it's still exhausting.
Yeah. Yep.
It's still exhausting, love. Something that I wanted to give you space to talk about too is that I know you speak a lot about being non-binary, but you also talk a lot about being like a chronically ill streamer and like what effect that has had on your life, both inside and outside of content creation. Um, Not everyone might know, so you might have to give them a little bit of background about who you are in that regard, but I would love to hear, I don't know, just a little bit of your perspective.
Yes. So, for anybody that doesn't know, I have Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease. I was diagnosed when I was 10 years old, which is very, very young. But I had shown symptoms when I was 9. And basically what it does is it's like it's an autoimmune disease, and all autoimmune diseases are basically your white blood cells, instead of like fighting off infections and like illnesses like they're supposed to, they're too busy attacking like certain parts of your body. So for mine, it's my small intestine, but it can cause other things. So I was diagnosed with one of the worst forms of Crohn's disease that you can have. So basically, my entire like from one end to the other end, it's all like fudged up, and I have issues. So I've been very, very lucky up until this point.
I know the timing is a little bit.
I've never had any. Yeah, I've never had any really. Basically, I've never had any surgeries. Because most people that are diagnosed with Crohn's, within the first 5 years of being diagnosed, you get surgery, especially for somebody being, you know, somebody like me who's diagnosed with like the worst form that you can get. But I was really lucky to have really good doctors to take care of me. And, you know, they basically, not like cured, but like maintained my disease until a few years ago. And basically, the reason why I started having a lot of issues again was because I lost my health insurance and I couldn't afford my medication. And then when I could afford it again because I got health insurance again, everything was all fudged up. So about literally 5 years ago to the day, like to the days, I was in the hospital for my Crohn's because I was having issues. And since that time, it's basically just been a never-ending battle of, I think I feel good, and then I don't feel good. So about a year ago, I started, over a year ago, like literally just before the pandemic, I was having really bad Crohn's flares again, because I was on a medication that just was not working. And so around when COVID kind of became like a really big, like people were talking about it, I had to sit down with my boss and be like, if like our area gets hit with COVID, I cannot work, because not to be, you know, dark or anything, but if I get COVID, I will not survive. Like, that's how bad it was. So of course, you know, it did happen and I couldn't work. So, you know, and then throughout my streaming career, it's just been really, I'm like, to be such a chronically sick person, to be able to like have a job where I can work from home and I can still like connect and communicate with people is so like life-changing for me, because I've had because I've had those times where I've felt, even when I was in the hospital, I felt guilty for I was in the emergency room in the bed at 5 o'clock in the morning calling my Starbucks to tell them I can't come to work because I'm being hospitalized. And I felt intense guilt from that, even though I was literally being hospitalized. And so now I'm like, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And even on days where I don't, like, I take off of streaming because I don't feel good, I could just remind myself that I have such a loving and caring community that wants me to get better and will actually yell at me if I decide to stream and I'm not feeling good. They'd be like, Momo, please end stream and go take a nap. So, you know, the past 5
I
years
love the
I've been really
wholesome side of
struggling.
Twitch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've been really struggling, and actually about like less than 2 weeks ago, I went and saw a new doctor, and I am going to be going in for surgery to get that disease section of my intestines removed, and I'm just so relieved, because it's just, like I said, it's just been a never-ending struggle for the past 5 years, and knowing that I get to hopefully soon live almost as normal of a life as I can being a chronically ill person, but I won't be in pain every day. I'll hopefully have energy again, because like it's so, bodies are strange, especially illnesses, because every other
Retweet.
part of like my small intestine, my large intestine are like clear of disease. Everything looks fine. It's just this one like 8 centimeter section that is just not Gucci. So now knowing that I have to go and get, you know, a surgery to get it removed, but also knowing that I don't have to call a workplace and be like, I'm going to be out of work for this amount of time
Mhm.
and blah, blah, blah. Like, knowing that I don't have to deal with that stress or like feel that like anxiety of having to deal with that, because I create my own schedule and I have people that understand, like, I just feel so, it's such a privilege and like such a blessing, honestly. And I definitely don't take it for granted. I just love my community so much. And I love being on Twitch. And I love being able to like share. And it's another one of those things too where, you know, I didn't want to just talk about, you know, being a non-binary person on my stream. I also wanted to talk about being chronically ill and talk about Crohn's disease, because Crohn's disease is it's one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about because it deals with your bowel movements and a lot of poo-poo talk. So people don't talk about it. It's very embarrassing.
Add some
So I
irony
wanted,
to
and I was one of
the going live alert situation that almost happened.
Maybe it would have been apt for today.
Yeah, my whole life is a poo-poo emergency, honestly. But you know, it's one of those things where I wanted to talk about it and like let people know about it, because a lot of people don't know about it. And I still have people that come into my stream and be like, oh, you know, what's Crohn's disease? And I'll be like, well, this is what it is. So people learn. And now I've been able to actually meet other members of my community that are like, hey, I also have Crohn's disease, which like I've never really had any friends who also have Crohn's. And so now to be able to connect with people that also have it and like talk to them, especially like one of my close friends has had the surgery that I'm going to be getting. So to be able to talk to her and be like, what should I expect? Well, I should say her and her brother, because they both have Crohn's, have gotten the surgery. So to be able to like talk to somebody about it and to know what to expect, and to be able to be like, to have somebody be like, it was scary and recovery sucked, but it was worth it. You know, it makes me feel so comfortable. And it's so great that I was able to like not only connect with other queer and non-binary folk, but also to connect with other chronically ill people that have the same struggle that I have, and be able to like talk to them and not feel so alone in the world about it.
That's amazing. Truly the power of Twitch.
Twitch
Which
is
is amazing.
It's a very it's a very it's I feel like it means something different to me as a disabled creator because of what you express, which is essentially the ability to accommodate yourself. Because theoretically when you're working you're supposed to be able to ask for accommodations, but if when I tell you I have considered daily, every day I've worked at Starbucks, asking my supervisor whether or not that I can do X, Y, and Z thing, but have not asked because I just like don't know how it's gonna be perceived, or what, like there is a lot of like I'm not like gonna put you on anymore because you can't do the job. So I feel like I just have to like perform the ability to do some of these things. And so the sort of community care aspect of Twitch, as well as just being able to accommodate yourself with the ask, I feel like I have to ask permission to get accommodations, which is not how it's supposed to be, but it is how it is in the world. And so I feel like the nice thing about Twitch is like I can take a break when I need to take a break, like whether that's
Exactly.
on stream or more broadly. And but it's also, it's not a stable income, nor is there health insurance involved, but we'll figure those parts out later. That's a Twitch problem because they don't actually, they want full-time content creators to bring money and people to their platform, but don't want to make it possible for folks to actually be full-time anyways.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm so lucky to have found such a like an incredible person in my life that was willing to marry me. Uh who has, like a really, stable, I'm not going to say real job because any job is a real job if you're having fun.
Mhm.
But a stable job that provides health insurance and stuff like that. So after we had gotten engaged, we got married legally got married 2 months after, or 2 months after the engagement, because we just went to the courthouse, and it was so I could get on his health insurance really fast.
Yeah.
That's
Because
the best
we,
way
as
to game the system.
yeah, exactly. Because as critically ill people, we need it.
You need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you at least have that. But it is, yeah, it is scary to be a full-time creator and have those questions, you know?
And stupid taxes.
Yeah.
We're halfway through the year, and someone made a tweet the other day, and they were like, "By the way, creators, we're halfway through the year. If you haven't been keeping track of your expenses," I'm like, "Leave me
Leave me
alone."
alone. I will make it all up when it's time to do
I
taxes,
will
okay?
suffer at the end of this year.
Who keeps track of it as you go along?
I at least have put aside money for my taxes.
I've done
Or
that,
for my
but
Twitch payout. I
like,
have put
Smart.
aside that. But like,
Smart.
because you're supposed to do your like, what are they called? Where basically you can like earn money back by
Yeah, like
showing
all
what
your
you've spent.
computer
do you
supplies
think
and
do you think Bingus would count as a? Because I mean, I got him for stream.
yeah, I think so.
I think anything
think
can
he
count
does.
if you can justify.
Anything that I bought for my stream, I pretty much put on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
That's what I've been told.
gosh.
I'm just gonna like think about. I should probably start a spreadsheet.
Sorry,
See,
I
now
didn't.
we're
I
thinking
didn't mean
about
to cause an
it.
existential crisis.
Oh
Oh
man.
gosh. Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
we'll
Can
make
I
a
ask
shift. We'll make a
a
shift.
follow up question, Droopy? Is that
Yes,
okay?
of course.
So I guess as another like chronically ill person, and obviously it's literally different for everyone, but I am just curious, like what does like self care and like managing your illness look like with being a creator?
Taking breaks when I need to and not pushing myself, because like when I was working with the public, I would constantly, if I wasn't feeling well, I would force myself to go to work. And so now if I'm like having bad pain days, I don't have to sit here and just kind of like have like a heating pad on my stomach to help with like, because that's the only thing that really helps with my stomach pain, and like have a heating pad and just try to like smile my way through it. Now I'm like, I can take a break and like lay down and relax and have like take naps and just kind of like chill and know that it's okay to not push myself, even though I'm still kind of bad at it, but I'm trying.
I liked the realization, literally the like expression on your face. You were like, I don't think I can just say that and not say that it's
It's fine.
It's
It's
okay.
a work in progress.
It is, yeah. Because I still have that like that mentality of like, you know, being on the grind and, you know, like just kind of, you know, doing that. But now I'm like, I can step back and really remember to take care of myself.
Yeah,
Good.
So I
there
gotta
is
keep
a
doing
there
that.
is a bit of a grind culture on this here platform sometimes. Well, on all platforms that are reliant on an algorithm, so
Yep.
Yeah.
it's hard to
Well,
break out of that.
it is. Well, speaking of the algorithm, um, Momo, I would love to know what is your favorite part of being a content creator full time, and on the flip side of that, what is your least favorite part, if you have one? Maybe you love everything.
I just like being able to sit and like chat and connect with people. And this was something I realized when I like forced myself to take a break the other week. I took like my first chosen week off
Oh,
break
good.
from streaming and I hated it. I was bored, I was lonely, I didn't know what to do, except for like 3 days when I was out of town because of my doctor's appointment. And it just kind of made me realize I'm like, I took a break because I thought that I needed to, but I actually didn't need to. I just took it because I felt like I had to. And so I've realized that like I can just kind of like vibe and just like keep doing my thing. And then I feel like I'll know when I actually need to take a break. So I love being able to like sit and play games and chat with everybody every day and doing, you know, that kind of stuff. Um Man, what do I not like anything about Twitch? I don't know, when people come into my chat and just like say outrageous things, I'm like, why do you think that's okay? But I feel like that's just what everybody hates about Twitch. I'm really lucky that I don't know how, I'm not like knocking on wood, I magically don't get a lot of trolls in my chat. I'm very thankful for that. It's very, very, very rare. But I mean, I don't know. That's all, I don't know.
That's good if you can't think
I
of
don't
anything. I
really,
love that.
yeah, I don't really like dislike a whole lot about Twitch. I mean, I wish that we got more than 50% of our earnings,
Mhm.
and I wish that they would listen to queer voices more often, and you know,
Yeah.
yep,
We all know that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like we all know that one, we
Preaching
all
to the
know
choir there. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they would work on. I think it's transparency for me. So often I find that we're fighting these things and then even like let's use like the tags as an example. Like clearly they were working on it and clearly there was a reason um that they needed to take the time to do it because they were doing research and working with other communities and I'm glad that they didn't just like half-ass like do whatever they wanted with it, but so many people spent so much time and energy pushing for it that they could have spent elsewhere as marginalized creators if they had just known the project was in the works. You know, if they
Yep.
had just been transparent about where they were with the process. But for no reason that I can justify or see as logical, there's 2 years where basically it was the most like upvoted thing on their request platform and we got 0 updates.
Yep.
And for what? And for why? You can't just tell us. Like with the I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit, but with your like pronouns campaign, at least The Sims was like, yes, we're gonna do it, but we need time. And then it's like,
Yep.
okay, I can deal with that. I can understand that at a structural level, these things are complex. At a game development level, these things are complex. But at a just let us know so that we're not stressed about whether you're hearing us or not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's difficult. I think that it's hard because like we know that these things are always like a work in progress, right? Like we know Twitch is working on these things behind the scenes somewhere. Like someone at Twitch cares and is listening. But I feel like creators, we're kind of out there in the trenches every day, I guess, like
Yeah,
as it
literally every
were.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're kind of, the front facing part of Twitch. Like people are coming into our chats and asking us questions that they could Google and, whatever it
Can
may
I get some
be.
Google is free
Google is free,
emotes in
by
the
the way.
chat? Give me some
If you
Google is free emotes in the chat because they are follower only emotes
if you didn't
now.
know, Google is free. There is an emote here that reminds you.
Like, please.
Yeah, but it's like I often feel like we as the creators are kind of having to do that work and like the forefront of Twitch every day, like being the ones in the trenches and answering the questions and dealing with trolls as many of us do have to. And but on like the flip side of that, and like in a more positive light, like you do with your community, Momo, like having conversations and discussions and educating, like that's a huge part of it too, and that can be a really positive experience.
Yeah.
And it's a really really great thing that's happening. But it would be nice if Twitch could kind of meet us halfway,
Yep.
and do a little bit more to lift us up, so we can continue to do our thing. But not only that, because we don't want our content to only be queer education. For those of us
Yeah.
that choose to play games and do other
Exactly.
things, that shouldn't be like the only thing we talk about.
Yeah.
Yes,
Plus,
this
it's not like
conversation comes
the.
up every week. Please,
It's never ending.
if you learn one thing, if you learn one thing from these interviews, is please don't just support marginalized content creators only when they talk about their identity or only when they're struggling with trolls because of their identity. Let us
Yeah. Plus,
have
it's not.
happy things.
It's not. It's not the job of marginalized creators to educate you on anything.
No.
If they
That's right.
choose to do it, that's great. Because, like, I choose to do it to an extent. But I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to. Nobody has to. So, don't
And it
take that for
should be
granted.
on your time. It should be
Mhm.
when you are wanting to discuss those things, when you're feeling
Exactly.
confident and, really good in your identity, that you want to sit and have those discussions with your community. It shouldn't be at
Exactly.
a, snap of the fingers. Okay, well, tell me about what being non-binary is, because I don't know
Yep.
and I don't know how to Google things. Like,
Yep.
Also,
Exactly.
like, in the realm of Google is free, like, for me and how I feel about things, I don't know how about you, but this is like same for whether I'm on Twitch or in my workplace or whatever. Make an attempt to get some baseline education. Do a Google search. And if you need like a personal perspective or you're getting conflicting answers online and you're unclear on something, I'm happy to provide like additional support, additional resources, additional um, anecdotes, but I'm not queer 101 disability 101
Yeah.
education. Like, I mean,
Yep.
when I'm working in education, I sometimes I am literally, but when I'm outside of that frame, if I'm not teaching you a queer 101 like PowerPoint presentation, like make some good faith effort to try to understand. And like I saw one of my friends like Twitter the other day that's like, I know that a lot of people don't know how to use neopronouns, and I get that, but it's like I got 1,000 people a day asking me how do you pronounce your pronouns. Well, a Google search will yield you like sentence examples, both audio and text. Like if you would try, you wouldn't need to and I know it doesn't seem like it's a big deal that you're asking me, but what you don't understand, especially as someone with a platform online, is how many times a day you get asked the same question over and over and over again.
hmm
And as your platform grows, that becomes worse and worse and worse. I get people in my DMs who are like, can I identify as non binary? Can I identify as disabled? I do you
Like,
think
I
I am like
don't.
the I actually have the
You're a guru.
non-binary and disability passes. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
come check out whether or not you can like, and I tend to answer them, and I tend not really to say anything just because I think those people are struggling with like internalized ableism, internalized queer phobia, and they need to hear someone who's like publicly out as disabled or out as queer tell them that it's okay. I get it, but also it is a lot of energy and spoons to give to these repeated conversations, and so often like without consent. Like I'm way more willing to answer your question if you are like, "Hey, like I have a question. Is it cool if I ask you a question about this right now?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, great. I feel good about that." It's when people are just like, "I don't know you, but if we're moots on Twitter, so obviously I can ask you to walk me through my identity crisis I'm having."
Yeah. And I think one of the things, like, I get a lot of people that try to ask me about, like, other identities. And I'm like, I'm not that. I don't identify as that. So I don't have any opinion. Like, I can't really say anything. I'm not the expert for everything. Like, I'm barely the expert for non-binary identities.
You
Like,
mean you're not the LGBTQIA Wikipedia?
no, I'll be playing, like, here's another, I'll have the pride flags. Like, I'm going through the pride flags on The Sims, and I'm like, I don't know what this one is. Like, people expect me, it's like everybody expects you to know everything, and I'm like, I don't even know what this flag is. Like,
There's also, I think people don't
It's a
recognize
struggle.
how continually fluid and changing queerness is on a literally day by day basis. Our community is trying to figure out words and language and symbols and just ways for us to essentially try to communicate something that cannot be summarized in words and symbols to the best of our ability in words and symbols. Um, so I get a lot of cishet people who are like, I can't keep up with it all. I'm like, me either, baby. You just do the best you can. Like, we're all literally just trying to.
We're just vibing.
We're just
vibing.
The whole. It's just like, oh, this is not a good day to catch me talking about this because the timeline yesterday was really not cute and it was very invalidating. But anyways, um, the whole idea behind queerness is it is like essentially indescribable. So
And
when
it's not set in
people
stone.
so when people try to, even within our own community or outside of it, try so hard to make it new additional boxes for people to fit in, I'm like, that is literally the opposite of the point of what we're trying to do here. And we can't further create new like rigidity amongst just smaller micro labels. Basically, just just let people do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Exactly.
Please.
And I know that like this is something that B and I have talked about before, and Momo, you have to tell me if this is something that you experience in your community. Something that I really try to remind people during these conversations whenever we dive into queerness, which for all of us is often. I try to remind them that like having an identity, having a queer identity is great, but it can be different for every single person, even if you identify as the same thing. Like being non-binary can mean so many different things, and like that's the real beauty of it, as well as a lot of other identities. So it's like when someone asks me, I'm like, yes, I will tell you my experience with being non-binary, with being bisexual, but that's just my individual experience and what it means to me. That's not going to be the same from every person. So
Exactly.
I try to remind people like, just, you can ask people, but just know that it might vary from person to person, and that's completely valid if it does.
Yeah. And I always try to remind people, because people are like, oh, I think I might be non-binary, or like, stuff like that. And I'm like, and I always try to constantly remind people, I'm like, non-binary is an umbrella term. Like, it's not, like, there's so many other identities under non-binary, because while I, like, have on my public spaces, I'm like that I'm non-binary, I'm also agender, which falls under non-binary, which means something totally different than what, gender fluid does, or bigender, or the
other
anything
ones.
else. What else is under non-binary? But
so many.
So there's so many things that are under non-binary. So every non-binary person's experience is different. They're all different. Like nobody's the same. So yeah, I can like share my experience, but that doesn't mean that's how you're going to identify. And I have so many people that ask, like, can I identify as non-binary while also identifying as this thing that falls under the non-binary umbrella, because they don't realize that it falls under the non-binary umbrella. And I'm like, so I have in my Discord, we have our LGBT channel, and I have pinned the umbrella, the umbrella
Love
picture
that
where it's
Very
like
good.
the trans umbrella, and then over here you have the binary of like male or female, and then you have the non-binary umbrella, and under that is
Just a
all that
million
stuff.
little.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, please refer to the umbrella image in our pinned messages if you are confused, because the answer is yes. Like, if
Right.
you feel like you are those things, then 100% absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
I
it's
feel like the answer
also
is always yes and with these things. Like yes
Yeah.
and, but also this, but also whatever you want it to
Yeah,
be.
like, but also I can guide you, but I can't tell you. I'm like, and I
Right.
also try to remind people, I'm like, don't feel like you have to put a label on yourself,
Mhm.
exactly.
because I think
And you
that's
can
what a lot of
explore
younger.
labels. Like I feel
Yeah,
like there's
exactly.
not enough space for people to try things on and see what fits for them, whether that's pronouns or a sexuality label or a gender label. It is okay to be like, I think I'm non-binary, and maybe like talk about that publicly, and then take some time and then be like, you know what? Nah, I don't think that's quite right for me. You know, like it's
Yes.
it
The
doesn't.
amount of times I have flip-flopped between bisexual and pansexual. The amount of times
Honestly,
I think I've finally settled on like, no, I'm bisexual, because like even if people are like the differences are so small, I'm like, yeah, but those differences do make a difference to people. And
yeah,
Mhm.
so I like up until a year ago I was like, I'm pansexual, but now I'm like, I'm bisexual, because I've just kind of like figured it out.
yeah,
But yeah, I try to remind people, especially when we do our pronoun checks. I'm like, if you're comfortable sharing them, that's fine. If you're not, because either you're, in the closet, or you're confused as heck and you don't know what you are, or like what your pronouns are, or if you're experimenting with new pronouns. So I always try to remind people, I'm like, you can experiment with pronouns, and
exactly,
pronouns also don't equal gender.
exactly.
That's another thing that people don't not like think about, but like don't, especially like a lot of younger folks don't like realize that you don't have to use they them pronouns if you're non-binary. Like, that's something that a lot of people don't realize.
Yes.
I love that. Like, I mean, you're a perfect example, Momo, of like trying on labels and trying on pronouns. Like,
So many
you
labels.
went out and did it in person, even, which is very, very scary. You know, a lot
Yeah,
of
it's so
people.
scary.
The great thing about online communities is I always tell people like it's great to find queer communities online. You will be supported in trying out new pronouns. It's much less scary than doing it in person. So definitely, like, if
Yeah,
you're thinking
so
about
true.
it, do that, because I hear your story and I'm just like, I don't know
It
if I
was
could ever
so
do it in
scary.
person.
Wait.
Here's an example. I was getting a haircut with one of my friends. Um and or they were getting a haircut, I should say. And we were talking, and I was like, being supportive and talking to them, and um at the time they were also experimenting with he him pronouns, so we were kind of like, going back and forth. But then like they were sitting there and they were talking about like me, and so they're like, oh, his, blah blah blah, and I'm standing there like, uh-oh. I'm like, that's not right.
Ding, ding, ding.
Just like, it's just a moment of panic. I was like, no, no.
No, no,
But
no, 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 no,
you
no.
knew in that moment. So,
Yeah,
that's powerful,
yeah,
but scary.
it was, yeah, scary.
And it's okay. I just want to like emphasize it's also okay to like ping pong multiple times. Like if
Mhm.
you say you were in Momo's shoes and then 6 months later you were like, thinking about it again. Maybe he him is it. You can try it again and hop out of it again. It's fine. Like
Yep.
queerness is inherently very fluid. You
Mhm.
can be very solid in certain identities and that's fine too and stable in them. I'm not saying that, but like it even your interactions with particular other humans can be in influence like how depending on like maybe what relationships you're in might like so just like let people I'm in a very specific kind of mood and frustration with like just let people do
Yeah.
what we are using the best words we know how, particularly non-binary people who because this language it doesn't we're trying to use like words that are part of the gender binary to describe our sexuality and to describe things. Um, it doesn't even include us half the time. So, like, can you just let us try the best we can to use the words that, like, kind of sort of align the best? Like, I'm already frustrated that they don't really summarize what I'm trying to summarize. So then to have people be like, yeah, but you're not actually, leave me alone.
I had this
I'm whatever I
conversation.
say, okay? Like that.
Like I had this conversation, I think on Friday in my stream about we had like every now and then. I feel like once a week or once every 2 weeks we just really go off about gender identity. So I had this conversation with like just because, especially like just or hold on, where's my thought? And the like different. Even though like I mostly like use the gender neutral terms, but I'm also okay with masculine terms. But like my husband still calls me his wife, and I was like, because wife hits different.
Oh
Yes,
yes,
it does.
yes.
Because being called a wife, it's just, like, it just feels so special.
Wife knows no gender. in my
I
opinion.
like
It's
don't I
really-
don't have anyone use like very feminine terms for me almost ever. And so my partner, when because we've only been together for about a month, when we were like talking about, I was like, you can call me your girlfriend, it's fine, I like it. And people
one of
don't
those
get it,
things-
like
it's one of those things where specific people in your life, you're like, you are allowed to use these terms for me. And I feel like I'm
Yes.
also one of those people where like if I'm really comfortable with somebody, I'm okay with them using
Thank
like
you for saying
more
that.
feminine terms. Yeah, like it's so specific. So like if I'm really close to somebody, like my close group of friends, if they want to be like, "Oh, girl," or like like, stuff
Exactly.
like that, I'm like they're not doing it from a place of being disrespectful. It's
a
because they know me and I'm
connotation.
It's
I'm
gender
it's
thing,
whether or not
really.
I know that you
It's
respect.
attitude.
I feel like if
Yeah.
I have the awareness that you respect, so I have this conversation a lot, and I'm curious as to whether or not you all agree. I would rather I more how do I word this? I find it more annoying someone who can use all of my correct pronouns, my correct name, and say and do all the right things, but there are indications in their behavior that they don't actually think of me as non binary. They're just like trying to be a good ally or like do the right thing, versus I've had people who kind of fuck it up a lot, but I can tell that they believe me and that they genuinely
Yeah.
see me the way that I see myself and the way that I communicate myself to them. And it like that's fine. Like that honestly I would prefer that you're actually trying to unlearn this like what you've been taught, and so it's an imperfect journey and that's okay with me. But the ones that are actually doing zero unpacking, but they just want to make me they want to feel good about themselves basically.
Yeah.
It's not, I would rather not, honestly.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
Absolutely. And like for those of us that I mean, most queer people have had how many walks of life, right? And when you come out and when you start to become, the best version of yourself and who you want to be, like there are of course people from my childhood and people I grew up with who have known me as a girl my whole life, and like but they make an effort to respect me, and if they say like, oh yeah, well she, and they'll be like, wait, is that okay? Or they'll talk to me privately. It's like, thank you for making that effort. Like I feel that respect, and I know that like you've known me as one way my whole life, and now I'm like super gay. Like of course you're gonna make mistakes, but the fact that you're willing to correct yourself and see if I'm comfortable, like that counts for so much. It really does.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's the same kind of thing as like for me that relates to what you were saying, Momo. Like someone who I know perceives me the way that I want to be perceived. If they're making a joke or referring to me and they're like, "Hey, girl," I don't mind it as much because I know you don't actually think of me as a girl.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It's.
But I feel like a lot of my like close friends just use like boy for me. They don't even really use like the feminine terms anymore. It's like one of those things that they used to, but now they kind of like flipped.
Yeah.
It's like it flip flops.
I really enjoy, and I was actually, I don't know, I'm just thinking about this, B. I love those exercises where it's like, what compliments, bring you joy and make you feel validated? Like, what, like, pet names are you comfortable with? And like, I want to like do this exercise with like all of my queer friends. And I've been
Honestly.
trying this recently. I'm like,
Like
do you
it's like
like
a
majesty? Do you like queen or king? Do you like, high being? Like, whatever it is, tell me, and I will
I
try to incorporate that into my conversation.
I love the pick and choose energy. Like this,
Hmm.
I feel like people want the answers to be easy, and that's where it does not work because they like want you to be like, I like feminine terms because that's easy for them to just like piece it versus taking the time to like figure out what somebody in chat said Lord of the Furbies.
Perfect. Now I know. Thank you,
That is
my Lord Momo, Lord of the Furbies.
that's my name in our Discord. I changed my Discord name to Lord of Furby.
I generally try really hard to basically just like keep my eye on chat and not really bring it up, but when someone said Lord of the Furbies, I lost any
That's so
ability
good.
to be professional that I had in my head.
Oh
Oh,
my
B,
gosh.
thank you for that. Thank you for that, SGB.
I
I
wanted to
appreciate
know,
it.
so now I'm happy anytime that I need to like talk about Momo, I'm gonna be like, okay, my lord,
Am I
the Lord of the Furbies.
abs?
And it's so funny because like so when I was long time ago, one of my usernames used to be Lord Momo. And so now it's just kind of become like full circle.
You have become yourself many years
Yeah,
later.
and that was maybe like when I was like 14 that I used Lord Momo as
Oh
like my
my
online handle.
gosh.
And now it's just like now I'm Lord of the Furbies. So I'm like it
That
all
is
just really
amazing.
comes full circle.
Oops.
Ferb
Oh,
Lord, thank
Ferb
you.
Lord.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, Ferb Lord.
This is why my community is here.
No,
Oh
no,
my god.
Sarah, my Lord of Ferbs.
Lord of I'm so sorry that I brought this upon.
This is amazing.
Do not apologize. Someone exclamation point sorry Momo in this chat
Oh.
right now. Thank you.
My bad.
I really wanted. I think we need to like introduce this as an icebreaker, B, or as like another question, like
Oh my
what,
gosh.
because I mean, what's gonna top Lord of the Furbies? I don't know, but I like to know what people like to be called, 'cause I don't know how to telling people their names.
Wait. Longus Bingus, the first of his kind, ruler over the cult of the misfortune, please bless us this day, our daily do re mi. Amen.
Amen.
Momo, you've got to save that somewhere.
No, that's a thing in my stream.
Okay, good.
That is a thing that everybody does. That is the thing. Yep.
This is so good.
My cheeks hurt actually.
Yeah,
From
mine too.
reading that. Oh
Yep.
my gosh. If y'all don't know, by the way, Bingus is the Furby behind Momo. If y'all are very confused as to what's happening right now.
Can we
That's Bingus.
can
He's
we
5 feet long.
see a little Bingus action? I would be
Close
honored.
up Bingus
Here, I
time.
gotta take off his crown because he's.
This is
Oh,
the
we're being
important-
blessed.
Oh my gosh, what?
We're being blessed right now.
This is amazing.
This is there we go. This is Bingus.
Please.
He's 5 feet long. He's
Momo,
got,
do you have any
hold on, here we go,
selfies
wait.
with Bingus? Because I would actually
I
like.
do actually.
I would
Right?
actually like your YouTube thumbnail to be a selfie with Bingus, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I do. He's got spiderweb eyes. So I've been wanting a long Furby for a really long time, and I found somebody on Etsy to finally commission. It was my first ever donation goal for my stream.
Ooh, fun
I
fact.
set it up and I was like, if we hit this donation goal, I will get a long Furby. So I basically like had the basic idea of what I wanted him to look like, and I found this person to commission him, and I was like, this color scheme, so I wanted him to have like the purple belly with like the black really long fluffy fur, and I was like, but like his face, like just like do whatever you want. I was like, we have like a witchy, like gothy, like kind of vibes. So they did like the spider web eyes, and his beak is green, which I think is really cool. I would have expected that, but and he's got a spine in him. That's why he's able to like sit up, because long Furbies have very specific spines. But I put the collar on him, and then one of my community members made me put this crown on my Amazon wish list so they could buy it for him. This is supposed to be like a wedding cake like topper.
Oh my gosh,
But
it's
it's
perfect.
but it's I'm gonna spray paint it black or something eventually, but yeah, he's about like, this is him standing on the floor. He's
Wow,
like
he's
he's
tall.
almost like as tall as I am, but
Walrus
I
says,
love
I
him.
did not expect to hear I wanted a long Furby for a really long time at 9:38 in the morning on a Sunday.
Long Furby.
Listen,
I didn't know long
we gotta
Furbies
keep you on your
existed,
toes.
so this has just made my week already.
There's so many different kinds of long Furbies. I could just like spiral into this conversation. Some of them
for it.
some of them people give them arms with hands.
What?
There's if you just Google long Furbies,
Okay.
it's a lot. There's a lot of it's a lot.
Now
Here,
I had
I'll just,
like
I'll
OG
describe
Furbies
this.
growing up. So, and I remember like I loved them, especially because my dad thought they were really creepy when they would talk and like turn on like in the other room by themselves. And I loved them because I thought they were possessed. So I'm one, happy to know that Furby culture is alive and well, and two,
Sure is.
I will be getting a long Furby at some point now. So thank you, Momo.
I'll link you to the person that I commissioned
Thank
Bingus
you.
from.
Praise Bingus.
Praise Bingus. And he was actually a lot like, because long Furbies can be expensive, but he was on the
bet.
cheaper side
Oh, nice.
for long Furbies. So
Truly
my pride and joy.
one of a kind.
He truly is. He's my special boy.
I don't know how to transition to ask you a question after praising Minkus.
We just needed to get into the magic. And
Listen, I am not mad about it. I'm not mad about it at all. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness gracious. Momo, this is your fault because I absolutely hated Furbies, but I can't hate Bingus. And I still hate Furbies, but I don't hate Bingus. I can't hate Bingus.
Bingus just hits different, you know?
He does. I think it's the way that you adore him that like makes me adore him.
It's funny because before I got him, my husband threatened to throw him on the roof. No, he actually said, he's like, well, if people donate, like, because like I had the donation amount, but then he was like, well, if you get like this much instead, then I'll throw him on the roof because he hated it. But then when I got Bingus and he saw him for the first time, he's like, oh, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. So.
Do you know what I do hate though? Is the Bingus that's in your Sims that's on your bed. The long Furby. The day I came into your stream and didn't know to expect that, and your sim was crawling into bed, and I was like, what the actual hell is that creepy long thing?
Wait, you put Bingus in the Sims?
Yeah, Momo put Bingus in the Sims.
There is custom content. Long Furbies there's a long Furby culture. Somebody made custom content in The Sims of long Furbies. And it's called the CC creator is called Cursed CC. So they only make like stuff that's cursed, and it's the most it's so good, but it's very off-putting like in The Sims because it's like the texture and the quality of it is so high quality that it doesn't really fit in the game if you like look really closely at its face. It's very off-putting, but I love it.
Oh, it sounds great.
It is pretty great.
Scared the bejesus out of me when I witnessed it.
Oh my gosh. What are you currently working on in The Sims? Are you doing any fun challenges right now? I'm actually not a simmer, but I want to be. Like the more we talk to simmers,
I'm sorry to be.
It's a streams.
There is
it's gonna suck me in.
There is a trend happening. I'm seeing a lot of non-simmers explore The Sims in the last couple of weeks. There's a pipeline occurring.
Yeah,
there truly is. So I'm currently doing a Vampire Legacy challenge. It's called the Shadow Moon Challenge, where basically every generation is a vampire. They have certain there's like rules for each generation that we have to follow and like complete before we can move on to the next. So they just like, it's your sim, you get married, have kids, and then those kids continue on with the legacy. So we're almost actually done. There's 10 generations that we have to get through, and we finished generation 9, but we have to wait for our generation 10 sim to become a young adult before they can move out. We can start on with that. So that's been a lot of fun, but I've of course have had to put a twist on it where I make sure that every single sim like is a different gender identity, a different has a different sexuality, and we explore that throughout playing with vampires.
That's so
Plus
fun.
I'm a firm believer in that all vampires are queer. So
I agree.
I mean that it is what it is. And
Factual.
then we're also yeah. And then we're also doing a 100 baby challenge,
Okay, tell
which
me
is
about this because I keep hearing about trying to have 100 babies, and I do. I, I have no idea what's happening. It sounds very chaotic.
um
Oh,
it's the worst thing
yes.
ever. Some people might disagree with me on that, but so basically you have your sim, and your sim has to have 100 children, all from different like people. So you can't have 100 children with the
Oh,
same
that's
sim.
wild.
It has to be all different. But there's different things that you can do. So you can have an increased chance of twins and triplets.
Ooh.
But I'm also doing a non-binary edition where basically instead of like a matriarch or patriarch, we have like a non-binary sim, which I have dubbed as a theytriarch.
Amazing.
That was
Um,
actually the first thing. That's so funny. That was the first thing I ever did on Twitch. Was a 100 baby challenge with the patriarch. So connecting.
I love
yep.
that.
So no matter, because like we're almost to our third generation, which means we've gone through like the two different sims that have done it, and they've like
How
aged
many
up to elders, and so we
babies,
have to move on.
Momo? How deep are you?
37.
Oh
Oh my
my
gosh.
gosh.
And I have been doing. I started the 100 baby challenge for my 200 follower celebration stream.
And where are you at now?
Almost 6,000.
Oh my god. So this is a very involved, this is a very
It is a
long process.
commitment. It is a
Okay.
commitment. People who have done it on their like YouTube channels have done it for like years,
Years.
Jupiter.
Yeah. I also only do it one day a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 1 day a week for months
Yeah.
is it's a lot. It's a lot. But since I'm so close to finishing the Shadow Moon challenge, I think when I finish that, I'm gonna start doing 100 baby like 3 days a week, to fill up like those spaces. Um,
Momo, are you gonna be
I
okay?
hate it.
I'm a little bit concerned about
No,
the status of your brain if you do the 100
I
baby
I
challenge for
literally
it.
I literally said, because when I came back from my break and we were like talking about it, how I like didn't need to go on or how I felt I didn't need to go on a break, and then everybody's been asking me like, what are we gonna do after Shadow Moon? And I'm like 100 babies full time, and I was like, I think when we do 100 babies full time, I'll finally feel like I need to take a break from streaming because I'm gonna hate it.
It sounds stressful. I mean, I get it's a challenge, right? So it's supposed to be
Yes.
challenging and like time consuming, but it sounds very chaotic and very stressful.
It can be.
Um, and
Oh
I'm scared of it. I'm
I
not
think
gonna
it's the
lie.
hardest
just
in the
don't.
beginning because you don't have any older children to help you, and you are so the
Well, it's gotta take
beginning.
care of all the babies, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and
Yeah.
it's just like the one parent versus I feel like over time you develop like a family and you can have like the youngins and the teenagers like questionable in real life, but in a video game you
it's
can have the
fine.
youngins and the
The 10 year
teenagers
olds can
help
I
take
you
care
with
of the
the
baby. Yeah.
I
exactly.
hate. This is just me, but I hate having like the teenagers help take care of the babies and the toddlers, because I'm trying to make have my one sim do it. And so when the teenagers try to like help just like on like autonomously, I'm like, get out of here. Because I'm trying to do it and then they get in the way, and it's
That's
I can
valid.
only focus on like the
This
one, and
sounds
it's just
weirdly like like close to real life, but also no one should do this in real
That's
life.
that pretty much summarizes The Sims for you.
You're
But
right.
I
You're right.
think
Okay.
pretty much everything. Oh my
That's
gosh, the
interesting.
Simmers are gonna be also on our bullshit next week, on our queer cottage core bullshit. So I'm very ready.
Is this the new pack that's coming out that's like gorgeous
Yes.
and cottage
it was
core and like,
made for the
oh
I'm
gays.
my gosh.
so freaking ready.
I
I am incorporating it into our legacy challenge we're doing on the stream, and our next generation is a little like arrow ace bean who I'm gonna have go live in
Ooh.
like the countryside on their own, and I'm very excited.
yes.
I'm
I can't
ready.
wait to see what everyone creates. I've watched the video and this is actually what made me say, okay, I want to play The Sims now,
That
was
has
this
happened to a
exact
lot of
pack.
people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cottagecore?
Yep.
Okay, I'm on the way to
Yep.
live my
The
cottagecore lesbian dreams.
gays.
Yep. Mystery
I
pack is made
I
for the gays.
truly. And I would just like to say the fact that they announced this during Pride Month but it didn't let us have it during Pride Month was very rude. Both, like, all of me, Momo, Kay, we were all on the front page of Twitch last month, and all I desperately wanted to do after it was announced was to play the freaking Cottage Living game during Pride Month and live my best cottagecore lesbian life, and they just I feel
Make us play the
teased.
waiting game.
I felt teased. That's
Oh
all.
man.
Now,
Yeah.
something I've heard about The Sims, and I would love to hear both of your thoughts on this, is that I've heard that there's constant content coming out for the game, like new packs and things like that. Do you find that overwhelming? Do you find it to be a good
Ooh.
thing? It seems like there's a lot of long form content you can create with The Sims with the challenges, which I think is amazing. I would think that adding a lot of packs would be a good thing, but I've heard that it can be overwhelming and people feel like they can't afford to buy them all the time.
The Sims
So, what
is
are your thoughts?
ridiculously expensive. I will let Momo
Yes.
speak, but
So I feel like it was one of those things where if you've been playing The Sims 4 since the beginning and you've been buying all the packs since they came out, I feel like that's a totally different story than if you just now buy The Sims 4
Hmm.
and there's so many packs. I will not mention how much all of the packs cost if you were to buy them all full price
oh no, I think
together,
you should
'cause it is a lot
mention
of
it.
money.
I think you should mention it.
Yeah, you should. I'm
Okay,
really
it's at
curious.
least like close to $1,000.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because
Like
just the expansion packs, the big
it's a couple
ones,
hundred.
are
Yeah.
like
Wow.
40.
40 a piece in USD. And
Yes.
then the middle of the road packs are 20, and then the stuff packs are 10, and now there's kits which are 5.
Yes.
Okay.
So, this is what, because I get so many people. I feel like this is just a simmer thing. I get so many people in my chat. They come in and
Oh
like,
my god. What's your
um,
favorite packs? I swear to god, that
No.
question.
it's not even that, and it's like, oh, how many packs do you have? And I'm like, oh, I have all of them. And I literally had somebody come in there and be like, oh, you must be rich. Like,
Oh my
I'm
god.
like,
No, baby, I just buy them like every once a month.
buy them on sale.
Yeah.
I've bought all of my packs on sale, except for the couple more recent ones, because now that I'm streaming and now that I was updated on my packs, I can afford to buy them when they get released.
Hmm.
But I will say, the Sim Gurus are hooking me up with a copy of Cottage Living.
I know. I'm so excited for you.
I'm very
Exciting.
excited.
I've been
I'm so excited.
Dessert.
I've been avoiding all of. I've never done this before. Typically, I'm the type of person who watches every single live stream, but I have like avoided cottage living videos so that I can like actually play it, and I'm very excited to experience it in its whole like I don't know form.
Same.
But I would say in terms of it being overwhelming for packs to come out, other than like the cost, I feel like it's very, as a content creator, it's very helpful, obviously, to have consistent new content to play with. And I think if you integrate it into what you're doing versus feeling like you have to like, I know some YouTubers feel like they have to do like pack specific content. I imagine that would be kind of overwhelming with how fast. I do think sometimes people don't appreciate each pack for what it is and like actually explore it and then complain that there's not enough stuff because we go from one hype to the next hype to the next hype so fast. Like, I don't know if it was just me, but specifically with this last one, I feel like Dream Home Decorator was like kind of something people asked for quite some time, like an interior decorator career, and I barely saw anyone like play with it for very long. And then Cottage Living was announced, and now everyone's just kind of waiting for Cottage Living, and I'm like, you didn't even play with the pack that just came out that you just bought.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like elements to gameplay that I get frustrated. People are like, the game doesn't have any depth. I'm like, do you actually play it though? Because I don't. It's like I see a lot of people who don't actually really like play with the features of the game, and then they're like, there's nothing here to it. I'm like, well, you spend all your time in create a sim and build mode, and then you say the game has no depth. I don't
Well, and to
understand.
me, it seems like it's a game where you can really kind of create depth with how you choose to do your gameplay or the challenges that you've explained, Momo. So it's like, it seems like there's just like endless creative freedom to just kind of run with it. That's how it seems to
yeah.
me, anyway.
There's
Yep.
also a lot of hidden elements in The Sims, and people don't
Okay.
realize that things that you'll only know and unlock through playing the game and like clicking on the right. There's like 3 or 4 completely like completed worlds that are hidden that people
Wow.
don't even realize exist in the game because they don't
Yep.
play with it.
Yep.
Okay.
Like there's a whole like I mean with aliens, there's a whole like alien planet that you can build a rocket ship and
That's
go and
so
like visit the
cool.
alien homeworld and
All
people
right, I
don't
gotta
ever
play The
do that,
Sims.
like-
It's over.
Slippery
You've convinced
slope.
me today.
I'm sorry for your bank account, Droopy.
Yeah, I'm sorry
It's
too.
once you're in kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I definitely just recently, one of my friends was just starting The Sims and like tried to help her come up with a little like reasonable set of like 6-packs she could buy of all of them because like as a little starter kit. It's hard. It's good though.
Yep.
Well, we're coming to a close on our time here, and there's one question that I kind of like to always ask everyone. It's a little bit of a stumper though, so I'm sorry to leave you on it, but I like to ask everyone if there's anything that they like to talk about or is important to them that they don't feel like they get a chance to talk about very often. Not necessarily because they can't, but maybe because it just doesn't really come up. Because I don't know, we try to create this space here for people to feel like they have the floor, and sometimes in life, people kind
Coffee.
of shut you down. Yes, let's hear about coffee.
Coffee.
What do you want to know?
I don't know, I'm a
What do you wanna know?
barista, so you're gonna have to give me some. Like, it's gonna have to be real,
Drop some
real
coffee
trade
knowledge on
secrets
us.
for me to not already know what you're talking about.
Okay, I will say, Starbucks is like the worst coffee. I'm
True.
just gonna say it.
No,
True.
I
I'm gonna
agree
say it.
with you.
Their beans are over roasted. They're too oily because they're over roasted, and so that's why like if I ever go to Starbucks again, I'll get their light roast because coffee is not meant to be roasted super dark.
Yep.
Because it ruins the flavor of coffee beans. So coffee beans get when depending on where in the world they're grown, it depends on like location, like elevation, like all these different aspects go into the different flavor, like the different flavor profiles that coffee beans pick up. And so if you over roast them, it takes away those flavor profiles. So that's why a lot of third wave and like, the hipstery coffee shops only have light roast coffee beans
Yep.
because they help maintain the flavor and the quality of the beans. Because coffee is like wine.
Light
It's got the
roast
different
coffee beans
tasting
are
notes.
also light roast is also the most caffeinated, which people don't realize. They think
Ooh.
Yeah,
they think
technically.
because
Look at that.
people say black coffee, I feel like people think dark roasts
That means
are
dark.
more, but actually
Yeah, it's like no.
that's actually the opposite of how it
No wonder I
works.
like light roast more.
Yeah, light roast is more flavorful. There's technically more caffeine in it, and like it's so good. I can roast coffee. I have like a home roaster. So originally, one of my original plans over quarantine was I was gonna start my own coffee business, and I was gonna like roast coffee and sell it online. And then Twitch had some other plans for me. So coffee stuff is kind of put on the side until I can like figure out because I really want to incorporate.
Okay, Momo as one of
roasting coffee.
those like famous coffee TikTokers when like that's a trend on TikTok where people will like make a coffee as they're talking about whatever they want to talk about for that day, and for whatever reason it is a hit. So I will be waiting for like Goth Dad coffee TikTok.
Listen, I do have coffee TikToks. When I started my TikTok, I was doing coffee videos. So there are videos on my TikTok of me at my coffee shop making my morning coffee, or like I was trying espresso on
You were
one of them.
ahead of the trend, Momo.
I was trying to be in a coffee TikTok and it didn't work. And then my first TikTok exploded from Witch Talk And I was like, this didn't go as planned. So then I was trying to do like witchy videos, but then also trying to incorporate coffee because that's my passion. And then Twitch started, so then I started putting Twitch clips on TikTok.
Okay, so just
Or I
it's
had like
just
one
Momo
Animal
core.
Crossing.
Momo core.
Like,
That like there's
it's all over the place.
no
But
niche.
coffee is definitely, like, besides Twitch, coffee is definitely my true passion, and I will talk about coffee for hours. Like, I just love coffee so much, and it's just really. So that's why, and then bringing it back, that's why it was so hard to like leave my cafe job, because I just loved coffee. But I mean,
It's a whole culture.
I will answer literally anybody's coffee questions. Any question about coffee. Doesn't matter if you think it's not a good enough question or not. If you need help picking out coffees or doing anything about coffee.
We were giggling today
here.
before the
I'm right
stream,
here.
y'all, because in my tweet and in the description there for Momo as our guest, we talk about how they're like quite the coffee connoisseur, and then today, of like most days, Momo always has a cold brew like on stream, sometimes two cold brews, and then today Momo came with a green tea and it's not cold brew. I was like, Momo, it's not on brand. What you doing?
But
I'm
the question
gaslighting
is,
everybody.
will Momo still have coffee today, even if not right now?
I'm out of coffee, actually, so.
Oh no! That's why we have.
That has
tea.
never
Okay, that makes sense.
that has never stopped you before, Momo.
Yeah, but that involves me leaving my house to go get coffee.
Yeah, we hate that.
Or ordering coffee. I don't know. It's too late in the day to
That's
drink
valid.
coffee, for me, at least, now. I try to, like, control myself to only drink coffee in the morning and, like, only drink my caffeine in the morning. Because technically, I shouldn't be drinking caffeine.
It's our secret.
Because of my,
okay.
yeah, it's because of my Crohn's. I technically shouldn't be drinking caffeine, but
Sick people,
that's the one
we
exception.
deserve small joys in life too. Please,
It's
leave
the
me alone.
one exception that I'm making, is that I'm still going to drink caffeine.
Make those exceptions, and that's okay.
Yep.
That's valid.
Yep, exactly.
Honestly. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I know Jupi has to go somewhere, so we will be well-behaved beings, and wrap things up. But if y'all are not, I'm gonna heckle them and say, if y'all are not already following these two wonderful beings, I know we host this show, here on my channel, but Jupiter puts in as much work as I do behind the scenes, getting everything set up, getting the questions ready, helping me make this show possible. Jupiter, you're not allowed to.
What did I do?
You
You
gave Momo a shout out, but not yourself, okay? Listen, it's quite rude actually. And also, if you enjoyed the vibes, if you enjoyed like listening to stories from Momo today, our wonderful guest, they also have their own Twitch channel, as I think was obvious throughout the conversation, where they mostly play The Sims, but also a little bit of Stardew Valley sometimes, and I think it's Breath of the Wild is the other game I've seen you play a couple times. So there's some variety there, but they're a simmer, and they do a really good job. I like hanging out. I have a lot of streamer friends, like too many streamer friends sometimes, but both Momo and Jupiter are people whose content, like, even if I wasn't a streamer, would just like sit and watch. So 10 out of 10 would recommend these good beans. Anything else anyone wants to say before we find someone to share to raid?
I just want to say, Momo, thank you so much for joining us today. It was truly such a pleasure to chat with you and get to know a little bit about you, your community, and outside of streaming, you know, what makes you you. So thank you so much.
Yes. It was so nice to be here. I really like this.
Thank you for sharing space with us
and have conversations.
It's a good place, and everyone needs to just vibe and talk and you know, just enjoy a conversation.
Okay.
Yes.
I see where I see definitely where we're gonna go. I see another trans bean creator with very chill, cozy vibes, which seems like the perfect energy for us. I don't think I've ever been able to raid them either, so we're gonna go see the Proud Owl, if y'all don't already know. Zeki is a primarily makers and crafting streamer. And does like very cozy, very queer space And sometimes they play. Sometimes he plays Stardew Valley or a game here or there. But he's crafting today. I don't know what he's crafting. We're gonna go find out together. So if you want to come along with us and spread this lovely energy we've had today, I will put the raid messages in chat. There's one if you have access to emotes and one if you do not. Zaki does make very, very nice knitwear, sweaters, and thank you all. We thanked Momo for sharing space with us. Also, thank you to everyone who's been hanging out in chat. It means a lot to us. I can't we don't talk as much to chat during these streams, but I see you the whole time. I watch and just see you all saying such sweet things about feeling seen and validated, and that's more than I guess we could ever. That's exactly what we would want out of what we do here. So have a good rest of your time zone, and I will see you all on Monday, tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye. I gotta pee so
Yeah,
bad.
I got a jet.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
bye.
It was so much fun talking with you.
I know, so much fun. Bye.
Love you both.